is also a community conversation. We would like to also build our capacity to govern ourselves. This is what we call a democratic exercise of actually ruling ourselves. We should not accept that we will just always be ruled by somebody else. Right? Rights abuses such as extrajudicial killings, illegal arrests, and harassment of leaders and communities are rampant. So that's the reason why we gathered speakers who knew a lot about the situation in Mindanao. We have 3 speakers tonight. We have Ms. Narisa Alagretti, who is here today, here now, of the National Alliance for Filipino Concerns, Midwest, and the Migrante International. We also invited Deputy General, Consul General Romulo Israel Jr. To inform us about what the government knows, right? And hear their side. And then we also invited Father Erdman Pandero, the seasoned priest from Cagayan de Oro, who is presently in Chicago.
I was born, my dad is from Cebu and my mom is from Siquijor, and we are migrant settlers in Mindanao in the 60s. So I was born in Iligan City in Lanado Norte. I grew up there. I graduated high school in Mindanao State University, Iligan Institute of Technology. And then I graduated in college in Cebu, University of San Carlos, College of Engineering. And then I worked for the church right after, or even before I graduated at the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines for the Visayas Secretariat of Social Action. And then, so all my life is with the church. After that, sometime in the 90s, I worked with the local counterpart of the National Council of Churches, and then later on, from 1991 until I migrated in the U.S. in 2002, I was working with the Visayas Mindanao Regional Office for the Development of the Philippine Independent Church. And so my whole time is really to community organizing. And then in 2003, I got involved with the organizing of the National Alliance for Filipino Concerns. So yung mga kasamahan ko sa Pilipinas, like Father Ben Alforque, so we did also, with the help of Father Arcolaga, we started the National Alliance for Filipino Concerns. So that's where, you know, it's a member of the Migrante International, and with the human rights situation in the Philippines, it is a member of the those organizations that I'm in, is a member of the International Coalition for Human Rights in the Philippines. So I would like to, so this is just a short, kind of short presentation of what is the, compared to the degree of the long story of agony of our people in Marawi. So I need the help of everyone to, so we can just have like some visual. So because I also go back and forth to Marawi and Iligan when I was growing up, and I have my Muslim Maranao cousins in Marawi. So this is Marawi before anything else. It's very beautiful place. On top, it's in a plateau, very high. Kaya ano siya, parang Baguio, parang Malayban and this lake Lanao. Yeah. And this is the campus. So I went back there and worked for 2 years and studied also like in the College of Law. Go up and up in Marawi, down in Iligan, because these are the satellites. Iligan is a satellite school of Marawi. I mean, MSU, Mindanao State. Yeah. So that's the beauty of Marawi. Then this is the start of the bombing. So let's just let the pictures speak for itself. No? What's going on? The evacuation, the evacuees. Literally, they are really like walking from Marawi down to Iligan, which is like more than 30 minutes from my father's house in Iligan at Marawi City.
yung nangyari. Ako po yung nakikinig ko sa mga araw na yun. Sobrang sakit ko para sa akin. Kumbaga siguro kung ako yung tatanungin, hindi talaga makakabog yung bawat isa. Dito po yung pinaka-tinutuloyan po namin. Dito po kami nakikipagsiksikan. Kaya po sobra po yung hirap namin kasi siyempre yung dito po mga bata po na dyan. Kumbaga ang dami na po yung mga ano dyan, yung natutulog. Dito po naman, dito rin po ako natutulog. So dito sa may parking na to, siyempre sobrang hirap po kasi ano eh. Lima po kami nandito eh. Parang ano, tapos wala po kami masyadong tubig, naliliguan. Tapos dito ano eh, tabo lang kami umiihi. So yung pinaka-worry namin ngayon is after Ramadan, alisin na kami dito kasi hindi na ng madrasa. Yun naman yung hindi namin alam kung saan namin kami makakapunta. Kung mas kung mag-sponsor sa amin na wala yung makaskil kami doon sa kanila. Hindi hindi naman lahat. Pwede nila. Pwede nila sa lahat. Wala pumapasok na income. Kaya nga nakipasalamat po namin sa mga nagbibigay na kayo ng goods. Kasi di ba kahit isa po kayo tulog, talagang sarili lang talaga namin naikakot namin. Kaya yung mga nagbibigay po ng mga religiously, sobrang laking tulong na rin. Saka yung nag-volunteer na magsakripisyo po sa dito sa bawat days. Sobrang thankful po kami sa mga tumutulong po ng mga kapamilya namin pinili. Alam mo, martial law, once na sa aming mga Muslim, once na marinig namin yung martial law, ang laki-laki ng todo dyan. Kahit ngayon na sila ng abuso, kasi yung mga bahay namin, pinasok na lahat, nakaupo na lahat yung mga ano. Siguro pag-abot namin yun, tumingin pa na yung bahay namin, empty naman. Ako po, masasabi ko sa martial law is, nakakatakot po siya. Diba parang wala ng batas. Nakakatakot ko yung curfew na yan. Kasi yung curfew ko, parang, ano, pag ano ka sa lansangan, mauulit ka. Tapos, ano, by 5 a.m. pwede ka na umuwi. Ang miss namin ng mga ibang trip, sana matapos na itong gulo. Sana makauwi kami ng Marawi na safe. Sana pagdating namin doon, kung ano man yung tulong na ibibigay ng gobyerno, dumating talaga sa aming mga beneficiary.
It really reminds me of the time of martial law when I was growing up as a child in a war-torn Lanao. And I see my relatives, Christian relatives are in Marawi and my Muslim relatives like evacuating. You know. But this is really the first time where almost all the people of Marawi, like almost 500,000 have evacuated. So I have, as a community organizer, I'm really like working in the Philippines. It's not really easy, right? Because community organizers are tagged as lifted, and then, you know, like many are political detainees. But I think that portion of my life is not really as bad as when I remember or I am reminded of being a child in war-torn Mindanao. That's why right now I'm kind of like having a tachycardia, like, you know, like my heart rate is high because when I see the children and what happened, it reminded me of being a child and being so afraid of what is the future or if there is a future for us around that time. And it's sad because until now, it's still here, the same kind of situation. So I would like to start with a happy note that despite all the sadness, there is a thing to rejoice because Father Chito Sugano, the priest who was with his lay worker and the secretary, they were hostage that very day. Last September 17 in the Philippines, 16 here in the U.S., finally he is released. So it's something to be happy because there is that, part. And before anything else, I would like to speak in the dialect. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May peace be upon all. So, this portion is what led to the siege, and I would say it is a betrayal and hypocrisy in Marawi. And I will just read some preparation that I had. So Marawi City has the unsavory reputation of being the linchpin in Muslim Mindanao's drug economy and is in the grip of narco-politicians, so states international alerts on its book Out of the Shadows, Violent Conflict and the Real Economy of Mindanao, an in-depth book of research on the various shadow economies, including the illegal drug trade of Mindanao, published in 2013. Drug trading reportedly worsened during the political dynasty of Solitario, who was mayor of Marawi from 2001 to 2007, and reached a full-blown crisis under his half-brother Fahad Pri Salik's term as mayor of Marawi from 2007 and 2016. Additionally, according to the aforementioned study, an official with direct access to military intelligence stated that narco-politicians from Lanao del Sur are conniving with the Coratong Baliling, the supposed drug syndicate of the Paruhino clan in Osamis, who were recently killed in an anti-drug raid by the Philippine National Police. So that I'm trying to create here an analysis of how it became the siege of Marawi, no? Presidential advisor on the peace process from the OPAP, or the Office of the Presidential Advisor to the Peace Process, admitted that Ali, or Omar Ali, and his nom de guerre, or like his pit name is Solitario, had contacted him by phone even before the Marawi strike erupted, warning about the possible violent incidents involving the Mautis. So the Mautis is a last name of a family, as conveyed by Salik, Solitario's half-brother, or with the nickname Pri, P-R-E, and the uncle by affinity of the radical brothers, Omar and Abdullah Mauti, the one that is being tagged now. So, Solitario, as confirmed by Durisa, was taken in as an OP-APT consultant way before the Marawi siege erupted. This happened sometime after the Davao bombing in September of 2016, and not long after Solitario, Pri, and Arafat's names had been included in President Duterte's drug watch list released in early August 2016. Actually, Arafat is the vice mayor now of Marawi, Arafat Salih. He is the son of Omar Solitario Ali and the nephew of Fahad Pri Salih. In Lanao, the underlying family relations surrounding these events should be understood as much as possible. Pri and Solitario half-brothers have the same father of the Salih clan, while Solitario's mother is of the Ali clan, Marawi and Balui, by which Solitario took the last name of Ali, as a revolutionary nom de guerre when he was the commander of the defunct Moro National Liberation Front. So Solitario's son and priest nephew is Arafat Salih, Marawi's vice mayor, who retains the last name of his grandfather, Solitario and priest's father. Though priest or Fahad's maternal line is of a different sub-clan that connects with the clan of the Mauti. Solitario and Pri, according to some, trace their maternal and paternal lineages back to one of the original 11 Datu chief of Marawi, or the royal family, that being the Gimba and Buwadi Sakayu, thus giving them the strategic social status of sultans in Lanao. These lineages have complexities and are vitally important as they serve as avenues for political alliance, social reconciliation, unseen fault lines of conflict, the means by which risks are minimized, and the means by which the rewards from involvement in both legal and illicit economies are distributed. Pri and his nephew Arafat were widely believed to be directly involved not only in the drug trade, but also the kidnap for ransom, or KFR, or extortion in Lanao, with alleged Philippine military collusion. Additionally, at various times they allied with and competed against the Mauti family, whom the government accused of organizing the siege of Marawi and was allegedly behind the September 2016 Davao City bombing. In October to November 2016, the military responded to the Davao bombing by attacking Butig, Lanao del Sur, supposedly driving the Mauti group out and securing the area. However, the government must have known that they had not succeeded in eradicating the threat, according to the Inquirer, because they hired Solitario as a consultant, working with his half-brother Pri, to negotiate with the Mauti group in late November of 2016. Soon after, government troops had overrun the Mauti group's lairs in several villages and Butig town. However, the government failed to woo the ISIS-affiliated Mauti clan through negotiations, even after this military success. As one local analyst noted, political feud yan, a small war of political clans in Butig, which escalated into full-blown war. Thus, in the lead up to the Marawi Crisis, the government undercut itself in its all-out war against the Abu Sayyaf in Sulu and military incursion into Butig, so that the same analyst noted that while Hulu was bombarded and militarized, the Abu Sayyafs moved in the mainland of Mindanao and in Bohol. Hindi isang surprise ang lahat, na-complicate lang lalo ang conflict nang pinasok ang gulo ng droga, which is the opinion of this research. No? But before we go to the complicated part of the history of Marawi, the Butig, the place, actually, in July to August of last year, I led more than 100 Filipino-Americans and Americans to be a part of the ICHRP International Solidarity Mission in Mindanao, the whole of Mindanao. And there's more than 200 of us, but 100 plus in the US. Here in Chicago, Sarah Makaraig, who did also her research and studies of the mining corporation, was with us. And after we did our research and mission and even medical mission in Zamboanga, Sibugay, in Diplahan and the surrounding areas, which has problems with the Canadian Toronto Ventures Incorporated, the mining corporation. We wanted, when we have to go to Davao to attend the conference after we did all our research, being in the field. We wanted to shortcut the process of being in Pagadian, going to Davao in like 4 to 5 hours. But we already heard what's going in Butig, and we could not guarantee the security of foreigners, especially the non-Filipino looking, but more so also the Filipino looking, the young Filipinos that I was with, never speak a single could not really converse in Tagalog or Cebuano. So if we are in how many bands, and I'm the team leader of the Zamboanga group, while overseeing the whole of the U.S. delegation, I really have to assert that we will pay more, but we will not do it this way. We will travel 19 hours. From Pagadian City, we go down to Iligan City. We go to Cagayan de Oro City. We cut across the whole of Bukidnon, and then we go down in Davao City. That's the only way we can assure our security. And even if we pay more, and then the driver will have to even pay for the drivers who are Magindanaos. The drivers are Magindanaos. They assured, walang problema, basta kami, okay lang. Sabi ko, kayo okay lang, pero how about kami lahat? So, and then especially there's already a split from the MNLF, it became MILF, then it became BIFF, and then with BIFF, there is a split, and which is a part of that is a Mauti, which is a radical group with ISIS connection. So, we really don't know who they are, so we have to secure our participants. So we really already know that there's Butig. My point is, there is already Butig. There's something going on in Butig. Actually, we wanted to pass by Butig to do a medical mission, but we can't do it anymore because we could not assure the security of the good-hearted Filipino Americans and Americans around that time in that area. So I just wanted to put it on the side, on the parking lot, that this is not a secret, Everybody know that there is something wrong in Butig, where the Mauti came from. So we can understand what is the complicated history of Marawi, because our topic is Marawi. The complicated history of some of this clan politics illuminates the background to the violence in Lanao in the present. A local historian notes that the leadership of Marawi City is hotly contested by two clan groups. The 5 Marawi clans and the 6 Dansalan clans. These clans belongs to the old confederacy of the 11 clans of Marawi. The dividing line of the two groups is the Agus River. So if you saw there, Lanao Lake, there is the Agus River, and the National Power Corporation has many Agus dams, no? Ultimately, it will end up in Iligan City, where we have the beautiful Marawi Crises Falls, where the water is converted into hydroelectric power for almost a big part or the whole portion of Mindanao. So going back, these clan groups have been jockeying for influence in the areas around that dividing line since the American invasion in the late 1800s. The municipality was thus originally named Dansalan by the Americans and only changed to Marawi in the 1950s when a politician, one of the Alonto family, Senator Alonto from the Marawi group, won the mayoralty. So from the Dansalan name to the Marawi name, and two big clans. Masked by the guise of the political developments of the Philippine state and the revolutionary movements of the Moro National Liberation Front and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, the clan dynamics and affiliations remain fluid. At stake for the Maranao community in their 120 years of resisting, accommodating, manipulating outsiders is the political leverage needed to control access to the many resources of Lanao, initially timber, then the fertile agricultural land, and the aquatic resources of Lake Lanao. And more recently, the production of shabu and other profits derived from shadow economies of equal, perhaps greater importance is the power to claim and assert the Maranao cultural integrity, the defense of the family and clan, and the honor of the people. The key to this leverage rests at the pinnacle of political influence, which Solitario had achieved in a personal meeting with the President, assisted by Secretary Dorisa, as mentioned in the Mindanao News Report, when Solitario met with President Duterte early on and volunteered to help APP with a consultancy. Solitario said that the Mountain negotiations were known at the presidential level and that he took orders from Presidential Advisor Secretary Jesus Dorisa. Sabi niya, I'm sure the President knew about my going to Buti. So now we have to consider also culture and clan honor. Along the way, the family members of Solitario Ali and Sali allegedly became very involved in the illegal economy of Lanao, so that in a raid, they found shabu and all kinds of paraphernalia in the house of the present Vice Mayor of Marawi, which is Arapat Sali. Still, some local leaders believe that Solitario was not the one directly involved in drug trading. Rather, that his brother his half-brother Pri, and his son Arafat were primary drug lords. This theory states that Solitario was unable to control them and was forced to protect them in order to save himself. In fact, there were times over the years when the two maternal clans of Solitario and Pri feuded and almost escalated into rido, or revenge killings. But it was only the intervention of other clan leaders that prevented further violence. In spite of this, manipulating and being caught between powerful external forces and shifting alliances, the reputation of the family, the dictates of culture and clan honor, or maratabat, demand the protection of relatives, even those involved in illicit activities and radicalization, however disturbing and disastrous. In this way, we can see that the roots of the Davao bombing and eventually the Marawi siege had much less to do with international terrorism and more to do with traditional clan feuding, political alliances and patronage, exacerbated by the competition of local leaders attempting to protect their illegal economies, a volatile combination ignited and inflamed by the infusion of foreign terror ideology. The demonstration in mid-June 2017 by a third-party group of traditional Maranao leaders who protested their exclusion from the negotiation was an indicator that there was in fact the underlying dynamic of conflict in the siege. Marawi Sultan Hamidullah Attar told reporters that during the early part of the conflict, the traditional leaders would have talked to the family members of those involved during the attack of the ISIS-linked radical groups in Marawi. Sabi niya, all of us are relatives, and we are not given the chance to link these relatives and convey the message to negotiate for a peaceful approach. So, I would like to make it really shorter so that some of the parts will be in the discussion group. So, into the analysis part, there is a feeling that there is selective justice actually. No? A Maranao development worker in Marawi himself, a former supporter of President Duterte, called this the selective justice of the Duterte administration. Perhaps a better way or word is hypocrisy. This entire situation also raises serious questions about the data used to justify the declaration of martial law before Congress and the Supreme Court. It is perhaps the reason why Marvic Leonin, the Supreme Court Justice with the most in-depth knowledge of Mindanao, voted against the imposition of martial law anywhere in Mindanao. As a colleague points out, the Supreme Court abdicated its duty to properly appreciate, examine, and delineate these realities and the accurate versus the sufficient facts presented by parties in the martial law Supreme Court review hearings. Had they taken the time to do so, they would have discovered that in fact the President himself failed in preventing the escalation of the Marawi crisis. There was apparently no lack of intelligence. There's no lack of intelligence. They already know at the highest levels of the administration, nor there is a breakdown in the appreciation of that intelligence regarding the presence of the Mauti and the ISIS. The premises, they could have been stopped a long time ago before this happened. In fact, President Duterte was in close communication via his peace advisor, various clan connections, and political allies, many who had already been exposed on the list of drug-connected politicians. At the onset, many local residents in Marawi had welcomed the declaration of martial law in the hopes that it would be used to hold accountable corrupt and ineffective leaders. Unfortunately, they were sorely and tragically disappointed. Rather, the Duterte administration worked through OPAPP to protect its chosen people in Lanao and their ISIS-affiliated political base that was financed by drug sales. This was before this really escalated. Because they already know that there is ISIS influence Mahdi. It was this collusion that led to the influx of other ISIS-affiliated groups and eventually the full-blown crisis in Marawi. Thus, not only do the people of Marawi suffer, but the government's actions have undercut and destroyed much of the peace process itself. Hundreds have died as a direct and indirect result. Hundreds of thousands were displaced. Human rights abuses suffered by survivors at the hands of the military and the attackers, or the ISIS group. And there is incalculable damage to infrastructure and economy. And so not only in Mindanao, but all Filipinos bear the cost of Duterte's Marawi fiasco in Mindanao. So personally, I would really say that even the armed forces of the military, the armed forces of the Philippines, they were really also, there's more than 600 of them who died and a lot of casualties. They did not really expect this kind of urban guerrilla because of the ISIS trained in other countries, and they're good in urban guerrilla warfare. And they have mortars, and they have all kinds of, like really high power, I have childhood friends and very close friends who are now generals in the military. Some are military doctors. But my point is, even during that time, in the early 2000s, they have the capacity to shoot a helicopter and down the helicopter. It just doesn't show in the news so that the morale of the people will not be affected. But internal sources of my, within some of my relatives who are in the intelligence too, and even at the time, our house was one of the safe houses for the military for that situation. It's very, even me as an activist, it's very complicated where my family also stand, So the point is, this is where we are at now, and I don't want to be, I want to really put in the record that even the armed forces of the Philippines, many of the rank and file who died is really also painful. Not only the evacuees and all that, the people who are, and these are young people, very young people. So I would like to go to another part of my point here in this before we have the discussion is that it started with a thing that could have been controlled and then went out of hand and then and then let's go to another point. I would like to clarify that this is not only about Marawi. The thing has a domino effect. Marawi is the heart of Mindanao, in the middle. But let's see the other, why there is all this resistance movement, of the whole Bangsamoro people. So there are the 13 ethno-linguistic groups yeah, and Marawi that's Lake Lanao in the middle, and that's where Marawi, A portion of Lake Lanao is Marawi, because it's surrounded by a lot of municipality of Lanao del Sur. So then the next, And through history, we know there's a lot of resistance among the Bangsamoro people, but the most recent in the 60s is under Normie Suare, the MNLF, and then Ali, the MILF, and then we have the BIAF. And now we have the Moro Resistance and Liberation Organization, which has influence with the Communist Party of the Philippines and the New People's Army. No? So that's, and then the next slide. Also Mindanao, when one of us said pineapple, yeah, there you go. Pineapple, though. Mindanao is rich in natural resources, but owned by Filipino and Moro landed elite and foreign corporations. So that's another picture of the situation. And so here in the recent Bangsamoro law that President Aquino tried to pass, but with also resistance from the grassroots, even the women, this is one of the, that our voices are not heard. So in that article, in that particular law that they're trying to pass, Article 13, Economy and Patrimony, in the red mark, they said, it's not exclusive to the natives, it's open for foreign and Manila-based corporations, and where they really have hardly a small voice. No, they have a small voice. And let's look at that. Fossil fuels and uranium, in the second paragraph. That's very important. Those minerals are very important. No? And then, yeah. So the continuing problems in the Bangsamoro plunder of resources. We have all this, even ExxonMobil going on in Sulu Sea, the oil drilling, the mining corporations, and the plantations, and you see the... Yes. Yeah. So this is the picture. So there is Marawi, there is Mindanao, and then even before everything happened in Marawi, Mindanao, as soon as I remember when I was like 5 years old, as far as I can remember, it's highly militarized. You are also from Mindanao. There are times every kilometer we have a checkpoint. And we have to go down from the bus. So it's been highly militarized already. That's why it's like, how could they not control the Mauti when it was small, before everything has to happen in Marawi, no? So I would end that point in that way, and I would say I'm a child of Lanao. I was born in the house where we have the midwife. Ang aking puso inilibing sa tabi ng aming bahay in Lanao, in the soil of Lanao. And so being a part of Lanao Sur and Lanao Norte, I stand with Marawi. And I would like to share a little bit here before you share. So when it happened, as a small businessman in construction business, my dad kind of like is a subcontractor of the maintenance or construction of Smart and Globe cell phone towers. That's the family business. And when it happened, actually out of the 17 engineers named in that article, after almost 3 weeks, half of that, 9 of that are the workers of my dad. They were saved and they were with the Alonto, they were taken care of by the Muslim family. And then when they have no more food, literally they have no more food, as in they have to eat their clothes and they have to drink from the rain, they decided to run. And while running, in that article you know that, they were hit by snipers and towards the, because my brother has to coordinate with some contacts in Marawi, and then from the military so that we can secure the people. Until now, my father's business still have our dump trucks, our construction materials, bahala na lang yun, at least ang mga tao, save sila, no? And to be on the personal note, these are my Maranao cousins, all medical doctors. These are my Maranao family attending in St. Michael's Cathedral of Marawi. My aunt, my Christian aunt, so that's how we are, no? In the church, in the Roman Catholic Church, we sit side by side in peace. We are like one, no? So, and this is another picture in Lake Lanao. I am with many of them are Redemptorist priests now. These are my college classmates and with the other sisters of the Carmelites and the Assumptions.
Thank you very much, Elisa. So personal. At least I hope you were able to. So Mindanao is truly another promise, and
unfortunately, in our history, it's really one of the maybe tragic stories that we can see in our history. Despite their potential, it has remained laggard in our economy compared to other provinces in the Philippines. So, going now to what is happening in Mindanao, again, parang double whammy, since they're already, generally, they're already struggling, and now we have this situation, security situation, which according, of course, as the government employee, I represent the Philippine government, I can only tell you what is the official reports, what the official report says about what's happening. And as far as I know, based on the materials I have read and seen, we have this situation which is related to not just indigenous or local security issues, but something related to the Islamic state that has started or emanated in Iraq and Syria, the ISIS. As you probably know, last May there was this incident in Marawi where a group called the Mautek group started burning schools, churches, and then I think they tried to take over the city hall. They tried to steal guns and ammunition, and even flew Islamic State flag. So those are hallmarks, signs of an invasion, quote unquote, that was later used as a justification for the declaration of martial law. You all know that already. So that was in May. We're already in August, and according to authorities, fighting has moved to a stage where we can already expect victory on the part of Philippine forces, our armed forces. And in fact, this morning, there's a bit of good news. If you're following the story, the priest that was held hostage, Father Chico, Sugano, has been rescued and is now safe. So, the legal process, of course, has taken its course. The President declared martial law, and it was brought to court, of course, by some who opposed it. And the Supreme Court, as Ms. Luisa said earlier, upheld the ruling on the declaration by the President. And then I think they moved to even extend the martial law until the situation is normalized. From what I hear from other Mindanaoans, of course, Mindanao is not just Marawi, Mindanao is not just Danao. Mindanao comprises so many provinces. Earlier, even tribes, linguistic groups. From let's say from the people I talked with from Zamboanga, ironically or maybe surprisingly, said they kind of welcome the declaration because in their own experience, having the martial law declared all over Mindanao and the province means there will be more presence of soldiers, policemen, then that would give them a sense of security. So unlike when the official armed forces of the country, the Philippines, are not there, there are different armed groups who may be trying to impose their views on the people. So for them, it's much better that the government forces are there rather than private armed groups who will be running the show, so to speak. So there are many different, of course, opinions about it. Ms. Nerissa has given us their own opinion, their own presentation. And as a government representative, we are here to listen to everyone. And I would thank Mr. Jerry Torito for inviting me because for me this is an opportunity to get to know our community, and to discuss, share with you um, perspectives and information and policies that we can together review, probably criticize, and maybe make a recommendation that the government can adopt. We are here, I think we're all Filipinos, we all share common denominator, which is allowed for our country. So Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao all together. And I am happy that I see you're all interested in this issue, meaning you share that passion, that love for the Philippines. And I look forward to hearing your opinion, criticisms included, and most of all your recommendations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. So, thank you for providing us also the platform for our discussion that all of us here are concerned about the situation in the Philippines. As what Greg was saying, he cannot understand why Filipinos are fighting against each other. So we'll try to find the common ground to move forward our ability to make an impact in the Philippines, and hopefully in a big impact. So let's do this Q&A. Raise your hands if you have a question or if you want to add something, and then I'll try to moderate.
Yeah, because we only have 22 minutes.
Oh, 22 minutes. Okay.
This
So
is closing at 7.
yes. So Nita, who else? Nita and then Greg. Okay. Nita and Greg. Nita.
I want to say that listening deeply to both of you raises my blood pressure. It is hard for me to hear what is really destruction, violence. You know, when I was a child, I saw fighting and it was only a fist fight in Santa Mesa. But every time I see people fighting, I feel like throwing up. It's like a trauma that you had as a child. So, and given so much information, I just want to select some words, right? So, Nerissa said, it was always highly militarized. And that's my image of Mindanao. There's always fighting, and there's always groups that are fighting with each other, and yet the underlying family relationships are, and there are so many names that you made, okay, so it's Pre, it's Sultario, it's da-da-da-da-da, it's Omar, dami-daming last names, right? But fundamentally, the clans are competing for leadership. Fundamentally, right? Di ba, Tagalog din do that, and Bicolanos also do that, di ba? Keso Aquino ka, Keso Arroyo ka, Keso ano ka. I mean, families are all just, and then fundamentally, I guess, the question is, that's why I have pineapple as my image.
Yes.
It's a rich land. It is so rich, but who owns it? Who owns all these resources? That's the question. Why are we not allowed? Why are the people who live there, 800,000 Marawi, how many thousand, why are they not? Why don't they have the power to own? What is preventing ordinary people from ownership? And that's true of rice land, that's true of coconut land, that's true of sugar land. Why are we prevented from owning?
Who would you like to answer?
Whoever is bothered by the same question.
Even without the Mining Act of 1995, even before that, and until now, we know that the basic characteristic of the Philippines, the big portion of lands are actually owned by a few families. That's one thing, and it's really true. You have to go there to vote. That's why when you vote, you have no choice. You have to vote for who owns the, Otherwise, and then with the approval and then the implementation of Mining Act of 1995, Mindanao is open to the mining corporations and big plantations. That's another thing. So,
So are the owners, are the families the clans?
partly the clans have their portion of their land into the plantation, but there are a lot of indigenous ancestral lands that are now into the mining system. So that's why you see all the other indigenous also in Caraga, Southern Mindanao. Even before this happened in Marawi, if you heard a few days before that sa radyo, we were driving, we heard also in Sultan Kudarat and Malang North Cotabato. And the same reason, they are resisting because of the unevenness, the poverty, and the corruption, and the elite leadership.
And martial law is not the answer.
Well,
The president
is
been
the
talking.
destruction of Marawi the answer? If we see the whole 500,000 people evacuating and you saw the extent of the damage, I don't want to answer it because I think we all know the answer.
Okay.
It's coming.
She doesn't want to answer that question.
Because we all know the answer.
We-
I was trying to say, all this destruction and all these evacuees, and then, and yet we have martial law, like, and highly militarized for so long,
Okay, sure.
Yes. Well, yung problem of ownership, if we go back to our history, Mindanao before the Spaniards and Americans came, they were, of course, divided among the major tribes and some minor tribes, the Maranao, the Osom, the Mindanao. They have their own system, of course, of apportioning lands from the Datu down to the lowest member of their societies. But now, under the Philippine Constitution, of course, we respect private ownership. And in some Christian areas, private land is owned by families. And maybe, as Ms. Larissa said, some large tracts of land are under families and some corporations. But I do know that there are still ancestral lands that are under the control of tribal peoples. For example, in Cotabato, there was she was referring to some mining activities there. I know for a fact one area in Cotabato that the tribal minorities that occupy and have control over the land are looking for partners that can develop their land and use the resources under the ground. So they have control. And we have the Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao, the ARMN, also under the Constitution, they're given certain rights and privileges. And but I think what's happening right now is the bottom line is the security situation has to be addressed first before we can move on to more social and economic issues. So because we cannot talk about development, we cannot talk about investments, trade and everything if we are besieged by foreigners or even by local groups who are inspired by the ISIS. According to General Anya, there are still about 10 foreigners on the ground fighting against our forces with the rebels. So about 50 or 60 more rebels are actively fighting our forces. And we have incurred losses too. The military, the police have lost more than 100 lives, civilians too. So we have to really control, get a grip of what's happening and stop the violence first before we can move on with the agenda. The president himself has this 10-point economic agenda. And if you probably heard from the news, we are also trying to going to federalism, which will take us another day or even 2 days to discuss later, or maybe another topic
Yes.
for another day.
So just to remind you all, thank you very much. Right? Thank you, Lisa. Just to remind you, on Thursday, we will have another conversation. It will be held at 4300 North California. It's at Hana Center. At the same time, 5:30 to 8:30. So there'll be 1 hour more for the discussion. So Nita, no. After Nita is Greg, and then Edna, and then Marlon. Okay, Greg.
Yeah. You see, Mindanao was, the Americans said that Mindanao is a land of promise. That is the reason why there is now the trouble going back, and now it is in Marawi. Say, you said that it was the armed forces knows the trouble in Mindanao, especially in Marawi, in Dansalan.
The Mauti.
Mauti. They know this. In fact, in Basilan, they almost captured the enemies, the terrorists there.
So what's your
But the armed forces, yes, but the armed forces didn't release, I think Ramos released it. Why? Because there is wealth in Mindanao. When I was a student, they said, go to join the army and become wealthy. Go to Mindanao. And that is the reason. And Mindanao is owned by the locals of Mindanao. And we from Visayas and Luzon went to Mindanao. And because of this homestead, we give them what? 24 tourist title, 24/7. And the title was only in Manila. And the locals in Mindanao did not own it because they own it, just like the American Indians. And that is the perennial problem now. Because they can control it. Malacanang can control it. But then corruption began in Malacanang going down. And you said they should have controlled that even before Duterte came. But nobody, the army did not control that. They do have in control. And we are happy now that there is a Duterte who can control it.
So your question,
The question is, why did we not, why do we have a martial law? Why?
in the whole Mindanao.
Or in the whole Mindanao.
Okay, so,
This would have been controlled already.
okay, would you like to respond?
For me, diba? Okay, why there is martial law in Mindanao? Okay, very quickly, there was a debate whether it should be limited to Marawi, since the fighting erupted in Marawi only so far, and we hope it won't spread. But I think the thinking behind it is since maybe as we saw earlier in the map, so many insurgent groups in Mindanao, major and minor groups, and there is big danger of the fire, spreading throughout the island. In fact, Maute itself has so many relatives with the Abu Sayyaf group, and the MILF and MLF. So it's BIFF. So it's really it can easily spread if you don't control the whole island.
But they have known this before Duterte came. The administration before knows this.
The motive.
Why they did not control it?
Because they could not control it.
They
That's
can't
why
control
it
it.
continues.
There is armed forces. They can control it.
That's speculation. That's the speculation. So that's the answer to your question.
Yes.
Okay. So next is Edna, and then Marlon.
Judging from what I've heard so far, it appears that the social groupings in that area, Mindanao, reflect the tribal groupings in the Middle East. So therefore, members of the tribe owe their loyalty to their own tribe not to anybody else or anything else. So that it becomes a big problem then. That's why all this conflict comes in. One group wants to open their land for exploration, like the council said, and the other group opposed it. So therefore, that kind of conflict gets perpetuated into eternity, if you will, because of the tribal social construction, through social structure of the people in that land. That's one. The other thing I want to make comment is, development is not really that bad. You know, we have to open up a land, because coming in, it means there is jobs are created. That's one. Change will come into that land, and progress, cannot be stopped. It has to move on. That's how I look at it.
Unfortunately, we have only 5 more minutes. Do you have a question?
My question is, how are Christians and Muslims getting along,
Okay, yes.
considering
Quick
this
answer, right?
social structure of this place?
Actually, we have coexisted, like you saw the picture of my cousins.
Yes, I saw that.
And even like my dad's family business, the partners are the Maranaos and other Muslim, So without the corruption part and politics and all that, we live as a people peacefully.
Okay. So,
Great.
do you have any other response? Are you going to add? No. Okay. So it's Marlon and then ano?
Thank you, Paring Jerry, and papasalamat ako kay Nerissa sa tuloy niyang karga. Very responsive and very bringing up relevant issues which are very close to our hearts as a Filipino here in Chicago. And thank you, Paring Jerry, at higit sa lahat sa nakakatakot na posisyon ngayon na hinahawakan ng representante ng gobyerno, ng aking kaibigan na si Deputy Victor Israel Romulo. Kaya tayo naririto ngayon at bakit napakainit nito sa ating puso at nais nating ipa-register ang ating presensya. Sa kadahilanan na there is an issue of suspicion and mistrust sa real agenda ng ating mahal na Pangulo. Bakit? Ang dala-dala niya ngayong flag is war, is killing, stifling of human rights. So, napakahirap sa posisyon mo, Mr. Consul, na idepensa ang gobyerno na ang una nilang nagawa sa Manila and the whole entire Philippines is the Operation Tokamen. Mga issue ng human rights na yun na nasa national, international stage. So yung approach sa Mindanao ngayon na military approach, we are questioning it. In-extend pa. Ngayon, the issue of transparency, hindi pa namin malaman ang mga tunay na katotohanan dahil hindi makapasok ang tunay na media. Hindi rin ini-stifle din nila yung mga human rights advocate. So, yung issue na ito is actually an issue of the integrity of the government in their quest for what particular purpose sa Mindanao.
Is that your question? Integrity?
Actually, hindi ito question.
Okay. Just comment.
Comment ko na lang. Kasi mahirap i-defense
Okay.
eh.
Okay. So,
Thank you, Paring
thank you.
Jerry.
Thank you. Anong?
With regards to Mindanao, that of course before the previous president had exited, he wanted really to pass the BBL, and now I think there is some kind of support coming from the incumbent. But what do you think is the role of the BBL in the future of Mindanao, and especially with this new development? Will it help if it passes? what they think about it.
Yung under Aquino, the BBL, under
The one that they wanted to pass, but it got,
House Bill 44, 34.
I think if ever they're going to revive it, I'm sure there will be a lot of revisions and a lot of amendments to it. Kasi nga, we know what happened with the previous administration of President Aquino. The bill didn't pass the Congress. Kasi doon pa lang sa Congress, marami na talagang nag-oppose. Well, we can say may counting politics because it was close to election year. And they tried to keep a lot of problems on the Aquino administration so that his appointed candidates will probably not make it in the coming elections. And that's what happened. But anyway, under the Duterte administration, I think one of the priorities now is to federalize the government. Kasi that's what they consider as the ultimate solution to the inequalities, the pervasive inequalities in our society from Luzon to Mindanao. By federalizing the government, the structure, the resources, more people can gain access to opportunities.
I would like to get some
So
input.
sa BBL na yan, even if different point of view yung sa Congress, kaya hindi na ipasa, I would really say that ang bias ko ay para sa grassroots because yan ang talagang aking passion as an organizer. So from the point of view of our partner organization or network, Suara Bangsamoro, it is more like among the elite within the Bangsamoro leadership. It doesn't really reflect the peasantry or the poor Bangsamoro. Kaya, and I was there in Diblahan, Zamboanga, Sibugay, and on the ground with the rural missionaries of the Philippines, and the sisters said, when they go around Mindanao, they met the rebels, and the rebels said, we don't even believe our commanders there, even the BIA or whatever. On the ground, we do our own because we don't see benefits for us on the ground and the people. Kaya bawat mga local commanders ng different rebel groups, they have their own torque. So that's why it's as long as the question land is life, as long as the question of land is not answered, if it's really controlled by a few, and then you have corruption, it will never stop. And martial law is not the answer.
Okay, there you go. That's the answer to the
got
question.
the answer.
Why I would like to invite you again this coming Thursday, right? We will do another conversation about martial law.
And we have 3 hours.
And we have 3
Oh,
hours,
good,
and refreshment is also going to be offered, right? But once again, I would like to thank you all for coming and participating. This is really and we also have an evaluation.
We have to have a plug. We have to have a plug. We are the Filipino-American Human Rights Alliance of Chicago. And we are a new U.S.-based group of concerned Filipino-Americans who decided to band together to promote human rights for all through bayanihan, people working together, kapitbahayan, which is neighbor helping neighbor, and damayan, helping each other in a compassionate way. And by being knowledgeable and aware of the events happening here, right? So, there is a little evaluation form. It's not probably appropriate anymore because we're running out of time.
Yeah.
But if you like,
But you can
you just take one on the way out.
Yes.
And if you fill it out, then you just email it to us.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
And
Okay.
then,
That's good.
wait a minute.
Yes.
And because we also want to be generous, I'm going to pass this basket around. And those who want to contribute for the Marawi refugees, you just leave whatever you want. and we'll collect it, and we're giving it to Gawad Kalinga USA because they are already feeding the people at the evacuation center.
All right. So
Sound that way?
he will pass that. She will pass that on. But let's listen to short commentary from Labiosa and then Joseph. And then Edmond.
Yeah, good evening. I just noticed that when I last visited the Philippines about 10 years ago, I noticed that a lot of people from Mindanao were going to Luzon. And so they're becoming to be the new squatters or refugees. So they don't know, they don't have a place to go now. That's what I noticed, and I don't know how it can be, how can they be relocated back to Mindanao, or I don't know.
So again, that's another issue, right?
Yeah.
So not only the people from Luzon and Visayas going to Mindanao, the Mindanao people are now going to Luzon and Visayas, right? Okay, Edmond.
So I was like really listening to what both of them were saying and what the discussion was with the group, and I took a lot of notes. But for me, like connecting why I'm here, why we're here as immigrants, why we have to have a lot of undocumented Filipinos here in the U.S. Why is there so much like contractual workers going outside of the Philippines to look for jobs abroad, right? Where there might be a lot of employment abuses, or there might be wage theft among the employers, right? Where a lot of like labor and human trafficking, a lot of that really comes from what Tita over there was saying, was that there's a lack. I wouldn't say there's a lack of development, but the perspective or the values and principles of the development in the Philippines might not be fully for the Filipino people, and might be more for foreign investment. Because if there's really a lot of development in the Philippines for the Filipino people, then there wouldn't have to be so much poverty in the Philippines, joblessness in the Philippines, lack of education in the Philippines, which forces drugs, right, underground economy, which forces a lot of people for their families to survive, have to sell drugs. For a lot of their families to have to go to abroad and be separated by their families, to be undocumented here in the U.S., right, and face deportation. And even in that situation, a lot of President Duterte said that because those immigrants who are undocumented violated the U.S. laws, they will not be supported by the Philippine government. Which to me, it's like breaking my heart, right? Because a lot of my family friends, a lot of my coworkers, my peers, my college, friends, a lot of them are either afraid to use DACA because of Trump now, or because of the situation, and don't get help from the Philippine government, right? I don't know about your personal lang na perspective, or like what you think personally, but that's one sentiment I think that a lot of my peers especially might not be vocal about, but are suffering. And so I think it's all connected, right? The situation in the Philippines really does affect the Filipinos and Filipino Americans here in the U.S.
Thank you for
Thank
summing
you
up.
for summing up.
That's wonderful. Okay, so let's acknowledge again, once again,
Thank you for coming. I really
Okay, so
Videography, video editing, in reporting. This is Joseph Gelariosa
thank you.
of the Journal Global Links in Chicago, Illinois.